Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Running Cooked. So this week I'm going to be talking about my injury that I mentioned last week and how I've been dealing with it. And then as well I'll be giving you a bit of an update on my training, what it's entailed this week, and then looking at my options that I've got going forwards for Wrexham Marathon. And hopefully I'll come to some sort of decision, or you might help me come to some sort of decision by the end of the video. So anyway, injury. So injury, niggle, whatever you want to call it nowadays. It's not got better, but it's not got worse either. So the swelling's still there. I've still got pain in my foot. I still can't see the bone structure in my left foot, whereas I can in my right quite clearly. It's not gone down. I've been icing it. I've been wearing a boot all week. I've had it wrapped in the air cast and all that sort of stuff like I was doing last week. I have bought some supports to cushion my metatarsal when I'm running. I liken them to my nan's stockings a little bit because they're like the same sort of beige. But we'll not get into fashion because I know I'm an absolute fashionista. But it's I'm coping with it. I'm still wearing the carbon shoes and they seem to be helping. But it's pushing now onto 2 weeks where I'll be running with it, which isn't great and it's not ideal at all. This week in terms of training, on Monday I went to Royston with Dave and John, and Dave took us back to his roots. We did 11 mile around Rabbit Ings and on the trails and the TPT, kept it off road, mostly on dirt tracks and things like that. And Dave loves it when he takes us back to his roots because he gets to show us where he scored all his goals when he were a footballer, when he were a kid, which makes it quite interesting. And as we're running around Royston and he's talking about all his amazing footballing skills. And then Tuesday went on a run with Dave again. So Tracy came with the bike and Spencer, her son, and then Dave and me ran around Ladybower, Derwent and Howden Reservoir. We did do about 10 miles, so we did just do the top 2 reservoirs, Derwent and Howden. But it made an interesting run, somewhere a little bit different, to get out and enjoy the sun on an extended bank holiday weekend. Wednesday ran around home turf, 7 mile. I did go a little bit quicker on Wednesday, 6:30 pace rather than my 7:40s with Dave. And then Thursday again, I did 6:25 pace for 7 mile. Got a bit sharper again, but I still don't think that I could run at marathon pace at the minute. And then Friday, which is the day that I'm filming the video today, I've done 7 mile this afternoon. Enjoyed it, took it a little bit easier. I felt really, really comfortable whilst I was doing it. I didn't really break sweat so much and didn't have my heart rate strap on, but my heart rate did feel quite low, which is obviously a perk. But my foot is still niggling away. Can't run so much on my toes, so I'm running on the toes on my right foot, but on my left foot I seem to be running more on my heel. So it's obviously, it might cause compensation injuries where it's overstretching my Achilles, which previously I have had Achilles injuries and niggles where they've both been overstretched just from running too far back on my heels rather than running on my toes. That was about 18 months ago, and I've shifted my running style since. So Dave will tell you if you speak to him. He'll say that I'm running more on my toes and more forward now as a runner, which obviously is a perk. Anyway, that's my training this week. That's what I've done. In terms of the marathon and respect for the marathon and all that sort of stuff and my decisions for Wrexham, I've got 5 possibilities that I could do. So I could either run the marathon and actually go ahead and go and do the marathon, or I could switch to a half marathon on the same weekend, or I could switch to a half marathon in September, or I could push it back to a half marathon in February or March next year, or alternatively, I could cancel completely and not actually do any race whatsoever. In terms of the marathon, there's a lot of things influencing my decision. So a marathon, in terms of the distance, I'm experienced enough to know now that a marathon really can find you out. So if you're going into it and you've got some weakness that could risk being exposed, a marathon could really find you out. And you've got to understand that a marathon is a long way, 26.2 mile. And if you're going into it with injuries and niggles and physically you're not quite right, it will find you out. And it'll make you become a little bit of a cropper. And if you're going into it in your mental health and your mental condition, and you're not feeling strong enough, or you're not confident enough, that'll find you out as well. And a marathon can expose that weakness. So, for example, Manchester in 2017, I went into it with safety pins in my shoes. I had a weakness. My shoes wasn't right, and I had my feet in the ice bucket the night before, and I still didn't feel right. But I went into it and I ran it, completed it, got round, but I was in much better shape. And then 4 weeks later, I recovered a little bit. I was still in better shape, but I went and PB'd then at Milton Keynes. Got myself right, got myself in better physical condition, PB'd at Milton Keynes by a couple of minutes and won the race. As well with the marathon, if you're not feeling 100% there, it'll break you. And the last 6 miles, the last 6.2 mile, the 10k, where the race starts, it will break. And that's the nature of the beast almost, with the marathon. And you've got to understand that when it comes to actually competing or running that distance. With the marathon as well, with Wrexham, that's what's kind of trying to convince me not to do it, because I know that I have got a weakness at the minute in my foot. I'm not 100% there. I'm not 110% there physically with my foot, so it could expose that weakness. And it's not something that obviously I want to put myself through if I don't have to. In terms of the marathon as well, there's key things that is making me think otherwise. With the marathon, and it's making me think I'll just go ahead, I'll go and do it instead of switching to a half. And it's the attraction to the distance. I'm attracted to the distance, so the pain of it. I'm attracted to the physical challenges that come with a marathon, and the mental challenges that come with a marathon. And it's something that if you've ever been attracted to anything, whether it's your wife, your girlfriend, some sort of sport or hobby, or you feel that attraction and towards your work or your drive or your car or possessions, your attraction it forms the basis of why you're interested, and that attraction to the marathon for me is massive. And I've done a lot of sports in my time. I haven't done all the sports in the world, but the marathon seems it's a massive one in terms of your physical ability and your mental ability as well. And you've got to be at your absolute strongest to hope to go and achieve in the marathon. And that's what comes with the nature of the beast. As well as the attraction for the marathon, I've got massive amount of respect for the marathon. And it is obviously mind over matter at times, but with the respect for the marathon, I've got respect for the distance. I've done 32 marathons, as I've said in the past, in my time so far, touch wood. And it's that respect for the distance. I know what it takes to get to the times. I've run my first marathon in 4 hours. I've got it down to 2:25. I've run days where I've done 31 mile, 32 mile. I've done 400 metre races that have been painful. I've done 73 miles around Barnsley that has been painful. But the marathon and racing the marathon and that respect for the distance of the marathon is massive. In my lifetime, according to Strava, I've run 36,000 miles. There was 3 or 4 years before Strava was in my life, but according to that, I've run 36,000 miles. I know what it takes to run miles, and respect to run miles. And you need to be in peak physical condition when it comes to racing those miles. And the marathon is 26.2. It's a long way. In the grander scheme of 36,000, it's not that much. But to race it and be at your absolute optimum, which I want to be at Wrexham, I need to have respect for it. And with that attraction and that respect that I've spoke about, that forms your love for the marathon. And the marathon is a massive passion of mine, where I enjoy doing it. I enjoy putting my vest on, putting my number on, putting my Jakeman's in my back pocket and my shoes on and lacing them up with my timing chip and getting out there and putting my balls on the line and saying, this is what I've done and this is how I'm going to go and hopefully succeed. And with the marathon and that passion for the marathon, I want to say to myself, yes, go ahead, expose yourself, put yourself in that position and just go out and run a marathon. In the past, I've had bad ones and I've had good ones. In my life, there's been 2 times that I've not made the start line, and both of them times I've grown from them. So one of them I'm quite vocal about. So my streak started the 30th of November 2015. The day before my streak, I didn't make the start line, 29th of November 2015, and that was the Barnsley 10k. And in the Barnsley 10k, I didn't turn up. I was poorly, I was sick, I was throwing up, I was shaking in bed, and I was in a bad place, and I just didn't run that day. Went out the day after, I ran 5 mile. But it would have been a bad idea for me to move and get out of bed that day to actually run, and especially run a race. The second time I didn't turn up was a race called the Moss Valley Madness in Sheffield, basically dog and duck 10k, and I didn't go, but I still ran that day. It was during my streak that I still went out, I still ran, but I decided it would be a bad idea to race. There's been times where I've gone and raced when I've not felt right. So Milton Keynes 2018, I was carrying a bit more weight. I probably had a bit too much to eat over Christmas and never shifted it, and just had a bad race, ran 2:53, which for me at the time I should have been in better shape, but I wasn't. I went into the 2018 though, into the autumn, and ran an ace time at York, so I was happy. But I've had bad races, and there's been Dewsbury 10k, for example, last year. I shouldn't have turned up. What I thought at the time was an illness. Now I'm thinking it might have been coronavirus, but I shouldn't have turned up. I had 6 weeks where I was awful last year, and I shouldn't have raced at all, but I still did. And it when you do have moments like that, it can knock your confidence, and it can knock your mental capabilities. So if you might have stinkers, you might have races that really get you down, because you've done all of your training to then not succeed, or not succeed in your eyes. And I set very high standards for myself, and those high standards, they've helped me get to where I am in the running world. They'll help me get much further because my high standards are high, and if I don't achieve that, I do get myself down about it. So then part of me's thinking, you've got to be careful because it could hit you if you do Wrexham, and you don't get what you want to achieve. But it's the marathon, and that's my baby, that's my passion, that's what I enjoy. If I didn't do Wrexham Marathon, I'd be looking at alternatives. So I would be looking at doing there's York 5k come up, there's waiting list for Mid Cheshire 5k. It would be something shorter because there's not much about on the calendar at the minute, but that's not my game, and it's not what I want to achieve or what I want to do. At the half marathon, I could probably, if I switched to a half, I probably could get away with. I would complete it. I'd complete the marathon, regardless. But I could potentially look at PBing if I can chop my foot off, or hopefully it heals or something like that in the next couple of weeks. If I manage to lose a bit of weight, I would definitely be in PB shape. I'd be in PB condition. I'm teetering on that right now anyway. Just one problem, and that's my foot. Other than that, really, I don't want to push it back to next year. I've had enough of pushing races back, and I've got that many in the calendar for this year. I don't know what's right or wrong. September, I could push it back to then, and look to use it as a platform or a stepping stone to Berlin, to try and use it then as a race that's already penciled in the calendar. But it is looking like a busy autumn already anyway. So that's my choices, that's my decisions. So I've either got to go ahead, run the marathon, I've got to switch to the half at the same weekend, same time, same place, or switch to a September half or a February half, or cancel altogether and get my money back, which realistically I don't want to pass up the chance of putting a number on my chest and towing the line. Been watching a lot of videos of me racing lately, a bit of reflection, and it makes you realise how much you actually miss it. So yeah, that's that. Other than that, on a positive note, away from my decisions, away from my running, personal life, I'm 27 tomorrow, so 10th of April, filming this video on a Friday. 27. So when I was younger, when I was 13, 14, and there might be people twice my age watching this, and Dave will probably laugh at me, and there might be people 3 times my age, there might be people younger. When I was younger, I used to think 27 were a great old age. Like, I used to think people at 27, like, you're old. But I'm 27 and you definitely don't feel old. And in your head, you've still got your immature character and your quirks and your jokes and your laughs. But at 27, when I first started running, someone told me that you get 10 good years of running. So you get 10 good years of where you're able to PB and improve. I started running when I was 19. So at 27, I'm looking, next 2 years are going to be my best years yet. I'm going to be hopefully improving and building. And to finish on a positive note, from Rocky Balboa, it's not how hard you hit, it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And that's it. So thank you for joining me on episode 6 of Running Cooked. Hopefully, if you want to help me with my decision, post a comment, get in touch, drop me a message or anything like that. Other than that, I'll update you in episode 7 next week of Running Cooked. Thanks for listening.